Hey, everybody, it's Tony George. Welcome to Tony's Time here on week 4 of the NFL. And, of course, my good buddy, Indian Cowboy Arun Shiva in the house. Arun, week 3 provided, let's just say, a lot of fireworks. Your thoughts, basically, on the way some of these defenses are playing in the NFL, because the overs are just coming in like gangbusters right now. Crazy week 3 in the NFL last week.
Yeah, it was nuts. And as a Falcons fan, how much more can we take it up the backside? You know what I mean? It's almost like I did something bad in my previous birth. So God was like, I'm going to put you as a Falcons fan. You know what I mean? Indians believe in like multiple rebirths and multiple lives and stuff. So I guess I must have done something pretty bad in my previous life to be a Falcons fan at this point. But it's tough, man. But what's crazy is, and I think it's because of these high-powered offenses score too quickly, right? Which then extends the game longer, which then gives teams a longer chance to come back. You know what I mean? Because no one's running the ball really much. Everybody's chucking the ball like crazy. So that gives everybody a chance to kind of make a comeback. You had, the Saints giving up, 37 points, and the Saints are a good defense. The Cowboys once again getting shredded for 38 points. Even the Cardinals giving up 26 to the Lions. And then, of course, we expected the Giants to continue to be a debacle. The Jets are a debacle. Giants put up 36. Colts put up 36. That Bills-Rams game was nuts, and we talked about that game previously. 32 and 35. So many people scoring so many points. Even the Bears scoring 30. And, Trubisky, could that be the end of Trubisky? We'll see. But in New England, I'm happy to see the Pats come back and put a big whopping on the Vegas. It's crazy, right? Whenever a team on like Monday night or Sunday night national television balls out, I almost make it an auto fade the next game. You know what I mean? Because everybody's so high on it. It's what you talked about last week about that over, that people overly, how do you want to say, react, right, to one win.
Yeah, well, I think you're just saying that because your Falcons will be playing on Monday night, and since Green Bay went crazy, you're hoping for the comeback against the. And we'll talk about that Packer and Atlanta game as our last game today. I guess this is just like. This isn't on my schedule of games we're going to talk about here, but just reactions. Just you brought up the Niners and the Giants. The Niners were laying less last week to the Giants, who have been hapless all year. They blew them out with a depleted roster. Most of the stars that got them to the Super Bowl, last year did not play, and they still manhandled the Giants. Now they're laying more points against a desperate Eagles team. You think that line's warranted? Just a real quick comment. They're laying 7 against the Eagles here at home.
Sure it is, because we talked about last week how I think the Niners coaching staff next to Kansas City is the best coaching staff in the league, and I'm only giving them the benefit of the doubt because I'm a huge Andy Reid fan. But that Niners coaching staff between Shanahan and Robert Saleh is ridiculously good. He could have a college team, and I think they would be competitive because he's such a look at Ayuk, right? Ayuk for the Niners. He helps him run the ball 3 times. They target him 10 times. He's starting to become like a Belichick type of coach where you don't know who's going to be featured which week. You have no idea. Right. This week for Belichick, it was Burkhead. And next week it might be James White when he comes back. And then it might be Edelman. So he is such a brilliant coach. And I think that the funny thing is their backup quarterback went to New York previously in a very similar situation and lost the previous year. And now he goes back up to New York and they drill him. And I don't think it matters the players with this coach. They're just awesome. Now, is Carson Wentz not as good as all we thought he was? That's a whole different topic. And that's an interesting topic. Yeah. Maybe playing in a lower division, maybe we're just actually starting to see if he's not that good. I kind of feel bad for him because in the first week, he didn't have any offensive linemen. So he got sacked 7 times. The next week, that got taken, they solved that. But there is some rift between him and Andy Reid as well. I'm sorry, not Andy Reid, but him and his head coach as well. Peterson as well, Doug Peterson. So they're having a falling out as well. So there's a little bit of a power shift and grab. Max Kellerman even recently said, why not even trade him? Because if there's just going to be this much of a falling out, is it warranted? Absolutely. I think the Niners being a touchdown favorite over anybody these days is warranted.
There you go, folks. Well, let's get to it here. We're going to run down about 5 or 6 games for you here. Be sure and get over to Doc Sports. You'll see that free $60 up above in the graphics. And by the way, we had a lot of comments last week. And by the way, we had over 2,600 of you tune in last week. The show's growing weekly. Why not? The magnetic charm and charisma of Indian Cowboy and me on camera is undeniable. We understand that. So thanks for tuning in. But we talked about jumping some graphics up when we talk from game to game, which we might do. That being said, jot down some notes. Old school it. That's what we're doing. Just a couple of guys sitting around sports bar here shooting the breeze about the games. And so write down some notes here. Get that free $60 from Docs. Click the link in the description below and get yourself hooked up this weekend in football. The Colts taking on the Bears here. Surprisingly, Arun, the Bears are 3-0, straight up, 2-1 against the spread. And, well, Nick Foles does what Nick Foles has done his entire career, and that's come off the bench, save the day, and earn a starting job. And he did it again last week. I'm sure, much to your dismay, I was up in Wisconsin with the owner of Docs. That's why I'm sporting the Green Bay hat, and we were watching that game together. And I said, I'm going to text Arun and give him some crap. Well, I decided not to, because I've also had my team go down the crapper, and then people start rubbing it in a little bit, and I get a little pissy. Plus I also had a little bit of money personally in a contest pick on the Dirty Birds last week, so I wasn't real happy either. Thank you very much. But interesting in this game here, Foles takes over the helm. Bears at home. Colts defense ranked number 1 against the pass, number 4 against the run, number 1 in points allowed, number 1 overall. I never thought I would say that about the Colts defense. Any time in recent memory, you could never say that. That being said, take a look at their schedule of who they played before you get overly excited. But it's an interesting dichotomy since the Bears defense has been touted all world for the last couple of years with them acquiring Mac. And, of course, they're only ranked 15 on defense. The points allowed between the two are 35 points per game, yet the total sits at 45.5, which I find interesting. But nonetheless, the Chicago Bears with Foles after last week's win, plus 2.5 at home. And as I mentioned, total around 44.5. Your thoughts here, Arun?
Okay, first of all, what we have to start with is the 2017 NFL draft. If they're going to make this move now with Foles over Trubisky, who are all the players that when they picked him second, who are all the players that they passed up on? They passed up on this guy named Christian McCaffrey. They passed up on this guy named Patrick Mahomes, who got taken 10th. McCaffrey was taken 8th. Or this guy named Jamal Adams of the Jets, who was taken 6th. Not to mention that you had Deshaun Watson was in that draft at number 12. So all of these guys you passed up for this guy named Mitchell Trubisky, and you said you were like, oh my God, he's from North Carolina, and everybody's missing on him, and blah blah blah. And now you passed on these studs, future Hall of Famers probably for this guy, and now you're going to replace him, with Nick Foles. And the other thing is, as a Falcons fan, it's super frustrating because as soon as Foles came in, I was there at the 50-yard line when the Falcons played the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And I was next to Alex Mack's mom, who was charging her phone next to me, the center for the Falcons. And it was 28-10. And she goes, man, we exchanged names. She goes, Arun, I don't feel good about this game, because they were starting to come back. And when that game went into overtime, we all knew the Falcons were going to lose because the Patriots were just shredding them. That's how I felt when Foles came into that game against the Falcons with the Bears. I was like, we're going to lose. We're just going to lose. So, I will say this. The Bears have Tampa Bay on deck. I've been high on the Colts from the beginning of the year. Remember, I told you, I thought Phillip Rivers and Frank Reich reuniting, the former offensive coordinator of the Chargers, and Rivers reuniting would be a good combination. Am I completely sold on Foles? Not really. At the end of the day, he still went 16 for 29. It's not like he balled out. And I just think it's more of Atlanta just coughing it up. I still like the Colts here. I think at some point the Bears are going to have a letdown. And the question is, if the odds makers put the Bears as a 2.5-point favorite, people would have still taken the Bears. Why put the Colts as a 2.5-point favorite? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. This one here is a little bit tricky. It looks like a trap line to me. You want to take the Bears, and they're thinking the public, again, as you mentioned, top of the show. Don't overreact to what you saw last week. But John Q. Public does. And sometimes it pays off for him. I was wrong on the Saints last week. I said the whole universe is going to be on Green Bay because they're a public favorite, and they're scoring 40 points a game. And,
Why owe you
the Saints.
Beer?
Huh?
Do I owe you beer?
Yeah, you do owe me a beer.
Yeah, I do owe you a beer.
I had the old. I was going to bring that up when we Monday Night Football, but yes, next time you're out here to Vegas, you're going to take me to Bob Taylor's and the best kept secret in Las Vegas, out off 215 out here, one of the old school 60, 70-year-old joints here. But Bob Taylor's, you're going to buy me a nice filet and an ice cold Jim Beam and 7 at the bar, and our lovely server Jill will take care of us, and not hard on the eyes. So a little bit of help for you, but nonetheless, the one thing that I will say is everybody overreacted to Green Bay, and they were right. They were right in that case. In this case, I don't know. The only thing I will tell you here is I would lean under in this game. And secondly, when you talk about Phil Rivers in this marriage, I'm not sold on it yet because Phil Rivers, 3 touchdown passes, 3 interceptions so far this year. So nothing to write home about of him going in there and being an offensive juggernaut. Speaking of offensive juggernauts, the Arizona Cardinals last week, for some reason, stalled against the Detroit Lions a little bit at home. They got beat. I tried talking my Circa partner in for 3 days to take in Detroit, and he wouldn't allow me to do it. He big high on Arizona, so I'm still kicking myself in the. And by the way, I switched out the Falcons for the Lions in my contest pick, which pissed me off. But nonetheless, the Cards off a loss. How does Carolina counter, I guess, this offense of the Cardinals without McCaffrey? If you take a look at the Panthers last week, they were out-yarded severely in that game against the Chargers. The score was not indicative of, quote-unquote, the box score. And I'm a big box score handicapper looking at what was, so you can't look at a score and go, oh, those guys are 6 points better than the LA Chargers. Well, not really. When you look at the turnovers and the yardage. But one thing that jumps off the page at me here about Carolina, you're missing McCaffrey. You're surely missing Luke Kuechly and Davis at linebacker. The best 1-2 punch at linebacker in the league are gone. Carolina's scoring 22, and they're allowing 27, Arun. What could possibly go wrong here for the Panthers? And they are a 3.5-point home dog and 52.5 is a total. And Cardinals probably a little embarrassed after losing to Detroit last week. Going to come in here definitely dialed in, Arun.
Well, a couple things. One, how good of a coach is Matt Rule, right? He's coaching them up. He's playing pretty well. They were in there against Tampa Bay too. They would have covered. And by the way, speaking of the Falcons, if the Falcons end up holding on, I would have gone after kind of a slow start in the Circa. I would have gone 5-0 in the Circa. The Falcons are what cost me the 5-0, which is infuriating. But I think Carolina had really found a winner. They found a really great coach. So good for them, first of all. Second of all, if you look at the box score, like you were talking about, I think the 2 biggest things that I think you mentioned, which are always on point, is don't overreact. And the other second thing is look at the box score, right? So if you look at the box score for Arizona was actually 3 for 3 in the red zone. They were 3 for 3. They did really well. I mean, they passed for 268. They rushed for 109. But what caught them was Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray had probably one of the worst games he's ever had, right? 2 touchdowns and 3 picks. But he just didn't have a great game there. And you have we kept wondering, why do the odds makers keep putting the Lions as a +6 dog? We saw this the previous week against the Packers, right? So at some point, they were going to go ahead and cover that +6 because they kept having faith in them that they were going to turn it around. Maybe Patricia's fighting for his job or whatever. But I think at the end of the day, this is kind of a gut check moment for the Cardinals. Remember, the Cardinals are in a very tough division. They need to win these type of games or they get in a lot of trouble, because you're going to have to end up playing Seattle and the Rams and the Niners. So these are the type of games that you got to win. But the Panthers are going to show up. Miles Davis is a great replacement for McCaffrey so far. He was a fantasy stud last week. But at the end of the day, the Cardinals have to win this game, or else you had an opportunity right now to be 3-0 if you were the Cardinals. And then if you win this week, you would have been 4-0. So you can't lose this game, because then you'll be 2-2 and about to play your divisional games. So, yeah, I definitely lean on the Cardinals.
Yeah, I would too here in this spot. A team that got absolutely just, for lack of a better term, and I really can't come up with one, and we know all this is a family show and family entertainment, but quite frankly, the Baltimore Ravens got their ass handed to them on Monday Night Football on national television. Against a team that seems to be their kryptonite, as somebody said in one of their press conferences. Kansas City coming off a performance against the Chargers the week before, where they needed basically 3 58-yard field goals to win the game against a team they should have put away easily. So maybe a lot of people thinking, Kansas City, they really didn't click that well on offense in their opener against Houston either. I mean, they did enough to win, but you know, a team as talented as Kansas City can have a B-plus game against a team like Houston and still win a ball game, especially at Arrowhead, even without fans. But nonetheless, the Ravens just got beat in all phases of the game. You had a game at home where they turned the ball over. Kansas City did. The away team. The away team allowed an 83-yard special teams touchdown. And usually if I just told you those two things about Monday Night Football, you're going to go, with Lamar Jackson, the Ravens covered easy. No, they got their ass kicked. That was a good old-fashioned behind the woodshed butt whipping is what Kansas City gave them. And Kansas City, other than those two particular items I just mentioned, played a flawless game. And so now Baltimore goes on the road after that defeat on a short week, laying 13 points against the Redskins, who apparently are starting Brett Rippon this week at quarterback, and also the Washington football team. Pardon me, so I can be politically correct. Young is out on defense. Their stud from Ohio State. He's got a torn groin muscle, and he will not play. What I saw MRI today on the Football Network said at least 3 weeks. So a pretty bad groin injury there, which they take a while to heal up here. I can't lay 13 with them, Arun. Maybe in a teaser. I think they'll probably come out with Harbaugh's a damn good football coach. When you talk about good football coaches, him and Martindale, there's another good staff there in the coaching ranks in the NFL. I think they come out here with some focus. Rippon's first start in the NFL against a very pissed off defense that Patrick Mahomes, they just shredded them in every aspect of the game. They even used a tackle eligible pass play, just having a ball against them. So I think Washington is going to have limited points here, but I can't lay 13 right now in the NFL with anybody. And I know the Rams also are laying like 12.5 this week. But your thoughts on this game? Do you think Baltimore rebounds and makes a resounding statement here, or do you think they still have their tail between their legs and just try and get through it?
Well, I think, first of all, you have to give Steve Spagnuolo a lot of credit, the Chiefs defensive coordinator. I think he's a really, really sharp guy. I do think the Ravens will rebound and play better, but it's one of those things that, or are they going to have a hangover? And what a gut check, right? Because you think you're good enough, think you're good enough, and then you realize I'm not good enough. No matter how good I am, I'm never going to be able to beat these guys. That's the kind of mentality that might be setting in here. Or maybe they're like the Bulls and the Pistons. Eventually they get over the hump. I hate to say this, and Lamar Jackson is such a talent, but he is not dynamic enough to get it done over really elite coaches. Tom Brady has been, Holmes has been, Cam Newton has been. Cam Newton beat Nick Saban, right? But Lamar Jackson is not there yet. And I don't think he's going to get there this season either. There has to be a transcendent quality because at the end of the day, it's really the quarterback versus the coaching staff. right? It's really the quarterback.
Yeah.
It's really Tom Brady versus their defensive coordinator. And I don't think Lamar Jackson is there. What I think about this game is, the Redskins are actually pretty efficient from the red zone. They were 3 for 3 last game. I do think that I don't think the Redskins want to have a scoring contest with the Ravens. I think the Ravens are embarrassed defensively. I think, if anything, maybe a small lean on the under for me.
Yeah, if I can get this, and I think maybe you'll get some sharps hitting this at 13, because that's a fall number. If you can get it down to 12.5 by Sunday, and then tease them to where you, on a 2-team 6-point teaser, where you can get them off 7 and at 6.5, I think the Ravens can win by a touchdown here and a field goal easily, and they should. Especially the only thing that's kind of the monkey in the wrench, so to speak, is remember a couple weeks ago when the Chargers started Herbert out of nowhere and no one had seen him, no one had any film on him, didn't know what he could do. Same thing here with Rippon for the most part. So you kind of don't know what you're getting as far as a coordinator goes. And they do have some players there, and they were efficient in the red zone last week. Cleveland Browns taking on the Dallas Cowboys. Interesting here, the Dallas offense, number 1 overall in the NFL, yet they sit at 1-2. And the one win was a miracle win as they beat Arun's Dirty Birds because the Falcons didn't know how to defend an onside kick. Other than that, they'd be 0-3. And Cleveland, everybody's bear in mind, yeah, they look good the last couple of weeks. I don't know if you want to say they look good against Cincinnati because they were, Cincinnati was right in it till the end of the ball game there, and Burrow racked up some good numbers on them. But Cleveland's defeated Cincinnati and Washington, and the only team they played that was any good, they got their ass kicked by 32 points. And the Browns, by the way, Arun, 0-7 against the spread on the road, their last 7 road games. Dallas Cowboys here off a good performance, a very tough loss in a game that could have went either way at a very, very talented Seattle team here. Total 55.5 here. So they're expecting some scoring. But do bear in mind, I know that the Dallas Cowboys are out their 2 starting cover corners this weekend. So maybe Mayfield and some of those talented receivers can put up some points here. Can the Cowboys cover the 4.5?
So I do want to make a caveat. I do believe that whenever a new starting QB comes into a team, that team, there's extra juice and focus, and that team has an extra chance of covering. So that's why I think Herbert led them to a cover. If I had to take a side in that Redskins game, I would actually lean on the Redskins, because that's just my general theory, and we can see if it works throughout the season. But when there's a new QB that comes in, there's just that juice for that first week, and then it starts tapering. Yeah. Remember the Panthers, when Bridgewater went out, when that new QB came in, they covered the first game or two, and then it goes haywire after that. So I would probably lean on the Redskins. As far as this game is concerned, I think Mike McCarthy is a bad coach. I think it was a bad hire. I think he's old school. I don't think there's anything dynamic. Look at all the new coaches that are being hired, Tony. Matt Rule, Shanahan, and Stefanski. These are bright minds. This is what it takes to be a head coach in the NFL these days. Bright minds that are – and Andy Reid has always been a bright mind. He's never stayed the same. So I actually lean on the Browns here. I think this will be a coaching job that the Browns will do a better coaching job than the Cowboys. I just don't have faith in the Cowboys. They should be 0-3 right now. I think they're relatively predictable. I think if you look closely, the Browns rushed for 160 yards last game. I mean, Kareem Hunt is back and Chubb is back. So now you got 2 guys that are pounding the ball, and then they have enough wide presence with Beckham and Landry, and now with Hooper coming from Atlanta. I think it's a good public fade as well. I love public fades. Sometimes the public wins. What can you do about it? But I think the Browns are the better and more disciplined team. I lean on the Browns.
4.5 and 5.5 are the 2 numbers I hate to lay in the NFL. Period. Remember, we're betting numbers. We're not betting games. Speaking of betting some games, be sure to get over to Docs. That free $60 awaits you. And I have a big position this weekend in the NFL, a 7-unit play upcoming. And Arun had a hell of a football weekend last weekend over at Docs. And I'm glad you did, because I took a step back last week after a couple of good weeks of football. Last week, I took a step back. This week, I'm taking a big step forward, so be sure to go to Docs. And I also wanted to tip my cap to Mr. Indian Cowboy, as you are on, last I checked, a 9-1 run in the WNBA. And the WNBA finals are starting here between Seattle and Las Vegas. And both of us do some handicapping in the WNBA, so don't forget about that. Major League Baseball playoffs underway. They crowned the hockey champions, so college and pro football this weekend as well, and of course tennis from Arun as well, and the best tennis handicapper we have over there, and a damn good one on a national scale. So be sure and check it out. This game here, I'm going to touch on these last two because we're running short on time. New England Patriots. We would not mention this weekend without this game. Kansas City Chiefs for the second week in a row involved in the biggest game in the NFL. Last week, I thought that Saints and Packers and of course, the Monday night game were both kind of co-headliners for the biggest games of the week. But there's no doubt this week that the Patriots and the Chiefs hooking up at Arrowhead, opened up at 8, now -7, total 53. The one thing that surprised me when I started looking at the rankings and the scores and the power rankings in this, the Patriots, #1 in the NFL in running the football. That shouldn't surprise anybody that's followed Bill Belichick's career. And by the way, let me fill you in on a secret in case you've been living under a rock for the last 20 years while Belichick's been coaching. When he's in a big game against a good team, I've talked about this on this show, what's he going to do? He's going to pound the rock. And that's exactly what he's going to do here. He is going to run the football, keep Mahomes and his band of merry men off the field as much as possible, plain and simple, kill clock, limit possessions, run the football. Kansas City's defense has shown a propensity to give it up on the ground. And that's one thing I guess you could talk about Mahomes, Hill, Watkins, Hardman, the new rookie sensation running back. Oh, did I mention Travis Kelce? Hell, we got Eric Fisher involved in catching the football and making touchdowns now for Kansas City. Bieniemy and Andy Reid are the two best play callers that work together in the NFL. But it's Kansas City's defense that won them the Super Bowl. It's Kansas City's defense that won them that game last week. While you saw the offense going all over the field, just remember that they limited the amount of downs that Lamar Jackson had to work with because they got him off the field and wouldn't let him do anything. He didn't even throw for 100 yards. So Kansas City's defense, and this is, I guess, Arun, kind of a red flag, calling all cars, kind of a DEFCON 5 for every other team in the NFL. If Kansas City's defense continues to play like this and they stay healthy on offense, Bill Belichick catching 7 here at Arrowhead, and of course a short week for Kansas City, Arun, in another back-to-back huge game for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think you are 100% right. And if you go back to the history between these two teams, they've been decided by kind of a possession or less, right? The Chiefs won by a touchdown last time, 23-16. Then they beat them the Patriots beat them in overtime by 6, and then the Chiefs beat them by 37-31, and then the Patriots won by a field goal. I look at it this way. Last year, when these two teams played, it was 23-16. And I believe Cam Newton is a better football player than Tom Brady. I just do. Okay. And that's because I think Brady is smarter, but I think that when you take Cam's skill set with this Patriots team has the same receivers that they had when Brady was there pretty much. In fact, one can even argue the Patriots are more banged up. And then Cam rolls in, and now their offense is all of a sudden dynamic. You know what I mean? When Cam and Bill Belichick are underdogs, they consistently overperform, like that Seahawks game, right? Literally a foot away from winning that game.
Yeah.
So now the Patriots are perfect as underdogs. When they are underdogs, they step up. There's that chip on that shoulder. These guys want to go play with Cam and for Cam and so on. And I think that, if Bill can get that close with Tom as his quarterback, imagine what he can do with Cam. You know what I mean? So I like the idea of these Patriots running. And remember, with Cam, they can run the ball. With Brady, they have to have all these little shorter passes. With Cam, they can hold possession of that ball. and keep these, like what you're talking about, keep these Chiefs off the field, I actually lean on the Patriots.
Is White coming back this week?
What's that?
The running back. Is White coming back this week for New England?
Yeah, the reports are that he is coming back. The reports are that he's likely to come back.
Yeah, but so that's going to be that'll be a huge emotional deal for them to play this game, and they may dedicate this game to him. With his father passing and his mother's situation there in the car wreck 2 weeks ago, right before they took the field against, I believe it was Seattle. So that being said, that's interesting here. The total in this one at 53 seems a little bit high to me if it goes on. Bill, a 23-16 ball game, one way or the other wouldn't surprise me at all, or something 23-20. That type of ball game here. I could only take the underdog here, and definitely the New England Patriots in a teaser up to 13 would be a great move as well. Quickly, so we're running out of time. Monday Night Football, your Atlanta Falcons are taking on the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers, -7, total 58. The number 2 offense on Lambeau Field as the Aaron Rodgers FU tour continues. To show that they are number 1 in scoring at 40 points per game against a defense allowing 36 points. And, of course, Green Bay quietly, very quietly, number 2 in running the ball with 177 yards a game in the NFL right now. And the only bright spot right here for Atlanta is the Green Bay's defense is allowing 28 points per game. It doesn't make a difference. They're averaging 40. So might be some points put up here. I guess just a quick answer. Can your Falcons cover on Monday night?
Yes. Being a Falcons fan is like being in an abusive relationship. You just keep wanting more and more. It's like you get beat up and then you go back. Right? So I'm in an abusive relationship with my Falcons, but I don't see them winning. But I do see a typical, the Falcons can compete with anybody, Tony, but we can also lose to anybody. So we are the type of team that can go against any team in this league, including the Jets, and lose by exactly a field goal. We will lose by a field goal to the Seahawks, to the Chiefs, to the Ravens, and we will lose by a field goal to the Dolphins, to the Jets. So I think the Falcons will get up. I think this is kind of like their Super Bowl. They're 0-3. I think they will play a fantastic game, and then I think they will fall short by a field goal. Because at the end of the day, you still got Julio and Ridley and Gage, and you still got to, still able to run the ball. Typical Falcons game. Tight game, lose by a field goal. The Packers just have better coaching, number one. LaFleur is a great coach, and he's proven that last year and this year. It'll be a close game. The Packers will win probably by 4 points or something.
So one thing you never do in this business is you never talk politics because you're going to alienate 50% of your audience 100% of the time. But we did have a funny off-air conversation, and I'm going to pitch this back to Arun and put the ball in his court. Who won the presidential debate on Tuesday night, Arun?
Yeah, man. America's liquor stores won the presidential debate. Yeah, for sure. At least it's spurring the economy that way. I mean, definitely America's liquor stores were the winners in that debate. No matter which side you're on, there's a lot of drinking that can be consumed after watching that train wreck of a debate, man. So,
yeah, there you go, folks. Hey, have a great Sunday in the NFL. He's Indian Cowboy, Arun Shiva. I'm Tony George. Get over to DocSports.com this weekend. Get yourself hooked up with some winners. Thanks for tuning in.